Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to I Don't Know, We Can Talk About It, where we discuss myriads of topics civilly, reasonably, and responsibly. My name is Kevin Dufresne. Our first topic is about SEL. What graduate ready or graduates might benefit from having regarding social and emotional learning skills. Now, one may observe the dynamics of the text, the article, to consider the importance of acknowledging well-rounding human beings. So, as to not set individuals on a path of checking boxes of personality, of behavior, though really engaging into meaningful depths of decision making beyond attempting to check a box, fulfill a requirement so as to obtain a reward. Thereafter, what does the fulfillment mean? I think when addressing the subjectivity of the entire realm, one may regard human behavior, mentality, emotions, so many factors of being a human being may come into play when having to even make a decision about an individual that may be applying to a program, for example. And every individual that is observing an applicant may experience an applicant differently for whatever reason. So each may be operating, if even of the same rubric, of different criteria of mysterious internal bounds. I think approaching well-rounding individuals is very important to regard in connection with life and what being well-rounding means, how one may grow, how one may learn. Thinking of being a lifelong learner, how might one learn well throughout life? How might one engage depths of living beyond attempting to only fulfill a requirement that may bring one to connect with an objective that may only really be valuable to a person because of a deeper connection to what an individual really wants, that an individual has to either stay in connection with or rediscover, if not discover anew. So I think the engagements of life, long-term, living well, really need addressing when approaching SEL. If an individual is completing work well and collaborating well, to what capacity? How might an individual viewing another review the individual, observe the individual? Especially considering when the viewer may not pass the criteria of the individual of which one is observing. The importance of engaging such a possibility is to regard the reality that identifying if an individual is a level 9 in collaboration, a level 30 in communication, a level 22 in analysis may prove to be very subjective. Additionally, each of these areas that I mentioned in the example may prove to only necessitate only so much to be of value. If an individual is good with analysis, with analytic tools, differentiating, though, of connecting parameters, that may be extremely beneficial to individuals within the same organization that need to communicate the information of the analysis through the analytic tools. So each of these areas showing up in testing are nice to have in conversation, nice to understand as important elements that are appreciable, and the understanding that each may prove valuable depending on context brings to life the reality that well-rounding individuals is core, and that objectively humans bring wonderfully intricate elements to environments that technology may not ever be able to bring to similar satisfaction. Not anything against technology. The respect for the intricacies of humans, a human being, is extremely present, especially since in modernity, research is still happening on what's going on with human beings. Fascinating to be so intricately entwining. So, I think recognizing what may be valuable is a part of subjective processing. How might one observe in a way that may ensure not to limit, though acknowledge well, what may be objectively beneficial, which is arguable in any instance, though relevant to regard, as well as what may be possible with comprehensions of whatever necessities may be. So communication may be wonderful for one area of an organization, wonderful for individuals in general to practice good communication, though when assessing what is beneficial to an organization versus what is beneficial to an individual, one may regard that in one instance, analysis is extremely important and valuable to an organization, and without good analysis, there may be no need for communicating, because what is needing communicating? With collaboration, there may be an instance or so when collaboration is extremely necessary, though an organization may be operating through high times when there is independent work more so than collaborative work, and the collaborative period may be months, years ahead. And how that may even look may differ depending on who's looking, though in practice. So I think it's important to approach dynamics of embracing SEL through practices of how to be more mindful, how to be better acknowledging of human elements, especially considering aspects of humans, the human spectrum, very interesting, very valuable, and worth tending to, especially through learning dynamics, to navigate how individuals may be able to operate more soundly of human dynamics, especially considering individuals will be interacting in spaces with other human beings. So I think being able to address how individuals may be across environments, of course, there are many environments of which individuals may traverse and be, though bringing about mindfulness situationally, contextually, may be extremely helpful to ensuring individuals grow well, not only for a purpose of furthering education or obtaining a job, though for embracing life well. And I find SEL may differentiate between educational environments, between environments in general, though being in tune with elements of SEL that are mindful, approaching well-rounding dimensions of a whole person may prove wonderful long-term for not only the individuals that are to be learning in peer-to-peer situations as students, though for others that may be attempting to train other individuals to engage with how these parameters work beyond a particular environment, especially because the dynamics may shift as environments shift, as an individual goes from being a student to being an employee, or an employee goes from being an employee to being a student. There are way more possible shifts, though these are instances that are worth recognizing. So mindfulness is a strong core, but there are many resources and tools to assist with being more mindful individuals. So I think SEL may be wonderfully approaching the core areas of addressing whole persons mindfully with well-rounding dimensions. Though with mindfulness of the checklisting of SEL dimensions, so individuals are not approaching the SEL realm thinking, all right, this is going to be the lesson, this is going to be the connection, then that's done. Obviously, if it's not apparent, these are ongoing situations in many instances, and individuals have different learning capacities. So individuals will need to practice, though comprehend purposefully what even all the SEL may be about, especially if coming from an environment where SEL is not so immediately apparent. All right. The next article discusses behavior. What may prove beneficial to engage with student behavior, which may vary from environment to environment, which may vary from day to day, person to person. Individuals are growing, and in the middle ground of an educational environment, there are many entities that are at hand to attend to these situations. Even more so, there are many factors that may come into play with how behavior will receive a response. The article brings about many of these different elements. The article pertains primarily with in school situations and not necessarily extending beyond an educational environment, aside from a domestic extension, to engage with what behavior means on a broader level beyond one educational environment. I think being well supportive of educators is extremely valuable and important to ensuring the educational environment is secure and stable, especially if educators are doing really well with the clients, the students. And I think behavior is a factor that the article mentions may receive support in many different ways, though needs attention in a broader sense beyond an educational environment. So parents may be of great assistance, and administrators may be of great assistance. The article actually mentions a method of which one administrator has a pre-school discussion, meaning before school starts discussion in the beginning of the year to engage with parameters of behavior. And I think that's a good idea, though I'm referring more so to how being able to address what behavior means to whoever may be observing behavior external to a school, if there is an objective dimension of it, may prove of some assistance to engage with offering professional development, to understanding how an educational environment may have a different design, whether that be of a physical design or a curriculum design, to ensure to address how individuals may be in an environment in ways that may be subtle, ways that may be apparent, however that may come about, a different way than what may bring hierarchical pressures when hierarchical pressures are not necessary, especially if teachers are doing a good job with the clients. I think there are many instances of being in a hierarchical environment that may prove challenging for what actually may prove beneficial for an educational environment for the clients. And the reality is, one may question what work is really necessary to do, why is the work necessary, and what may the work look like to not only improve an educational environment, though to actually be effective for individuals working in an educational environment as well as clients in the educational environment, the students. Now, one may consider clients to be the parents, the guardians. And the reality is every parent will respond differently. Now, even parents in a collective group may vocalize a couple of opinions that may be agreeing, though there are many instances where those parents will be disagreeing. What is an educational environment to do? There are instances of behavior that really need attention in domestic spheres external to an educational environment. When the behavior arises in an educational environment, especially if linking from an external environment, then an educational environment may facilitate parameters to address behavior, though may only be able to accommodate and facilitate so much, especially with regard to what may be of a middle ground. When a student is embracing a way of life that is not happening at home, that may be on the way between home and school, on the internet, what is any to do when the expression happens? One may be able to express in an educational environment. One may be able to express in a domestic sphere more comfortably, which the individual will know best. It's important to acknowledge that behaviors are not of individuals that do not have intellect. The dynamics of behavior change greatly between grades as individuals are growing and maturing. If an educational environment does not acknowledge such a reality, then the educational environment might actually feed into an older behavioral pattern. For example, what may not be appropriate in pre-K may for some reason become appropriate in grades later. Why? Because the parameters of an educational environment shift. Learning is to be at the forefront. Learning well is to be at the forefront of an educational environment, preparing individuals to be efficient, effective, mindful individuals in the world. External educational environment, wonderfully ideal. The reality is, an educational environment may only do so much, especially considering how broad and extensive the world is outside of an educational environment. So, educational environments may operate more efficiently, approaching thematic progressions. The concept is not novel, though not every educational environment embraces the concept. Now, in higher education, these dynamics are standard. Prior higher education, these dynamics are varying. Now, in educational environments, may do well to address how to engage every grade. That's fine. How to have a common curriculum. That's fine as well. Doesn't mean that it's the best route. These are just approaches to being thematic, I like to think. Though, one must take good direction from the reality that one, for example, private school may differentiate greatly from another private school. And those two schools might be wonderful schools. So what comes into factoring which school to attend? So with behavior, one is not only embracing behavior out of the blue. One is embracing the reality of the potential of the individual in the future. What the behavior may incite may be bringing more awareness as to what might be underlying if there's a situation going on. There are many ways to express. An individual might express loudly, and an individual might express quietly. The article brings an example of the types of conversation that might result from engaging appropriately. What's really important to comprehend from an educational environment stance is that not everyone is going to be communicating or of the same awareness. And the facilitating needs to be mindful of the best outcomes that are for the individual. So individuals are not put in positions of bullying the school, where individuals are more so in partnership with understanding these are the dimensions of this school, and these are the reasons why it's necessary to understand why behavior of the sort doesn't make sense for this environment. And mind you, behavior might not even be behavior that really needs aggressive attention more so than realigning. For example, if a student is only drawing in class, that's all the student does. Every class is draw. Find the kid in art school. That may prove beneficial. It's not also about an educational environment being perfect. If an educational environment is perfect, that may be wonderful, and all the best with embracing that educational environment. It's going to be more so about ensuring individuals are aware of mindful dimensions, because a life is a life. So eventually the individual, the child with the behavior situation is going to live that person's life. So the guidance is helpful. Now, of course, behavior is not always of one side. So we're looking from this article of education with every educator being in seemingly a wonderfully good space to be responding. That's just not the case across educational environments. That may be nice if it is the case in an educational environment, though across the board, obviously, everyone's behaving differently. Not that everyone's behaving in a way that's harmful, though to say that there are going to be different ways of responding. So when behavior becomes a situation, what is the behavior? What may be the best solution of the behavior? Because facilitating is a part of an educational environment's objective, though an educational environment must be well aware that, hey, that place just might not be the best fit for the individual. It's not a bad thing. It means that the educational environment is trying to be helpful. Here's another option. Here's another avenue. You can figure this out. Your life, good, enjoy it, live it. Because anything can happen. Believe me. I say this because it's quite apparent. I have come across this. Individuals with high grades, stellar performers, they're no longer living beyond high school, beyond a few years in college. Life is wonderful and life can be amazing. So with the better guiding, with the mindset of life ahead of business especially, then engaging the core of learning will be very, very easy. Everyone can be wonderfully happy, and there are many different situations that obviously need resolving in education beyond what may be happening with one educational environment, which will receive good attention. Hopefully, what needs attention is not troublesome or harmful, and is only expanding for the good of what educational environments may offer, what education may mean, and what learning may be, so that individuals may thrive. Because the strong reality is what may connect from an educational environment may connect to economy. And in there lies great value for many, many reasons. All right, it's time for some origami. Now, for today's origami, I'm gonna fold a square-ish sheet, edge to edge. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to actually fold in each edge after making these initial folds into the center. All right, so afterward, we're just going to open one flap. Just one flap, and we're gonna close this sheet. And what we're actually gonna do from here is to make sure it's clear to see. We're gonna just open it, and we're gonna reverse the flap so we can see what's happening here. Next, we're gonna fold in each corner at the top. See, folding in this corner. Folding in this corner at the top, you can just fold it with the line next to it. Okay, so you see it's as so. All right. Next, what we're gonna do is we're going to bring the corner in. So we'll bring this corner in. We're also gonna fold at the same time. So we'll bring the corner in, meaning we're going to press this corner in, and as you can see, it's going to form a house-ish shape. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're just going to come in here. We're going to fold this corner in. And again, it brings in this house-ish shape. It's a nice, easy fold. It folds in with the preset lines. Very simple. Next, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this middle flap here and we're just going to bring it up. Afterward, we're going to bring in one side, you see, and then we're just going to bring in the other side. Okay. So now, just make sure this is real tight here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to open them, the flaps to 90 degrees, and even the centerpiece to 90 degrees. What we have here is a desk chair. So if you look at it, you can use it as a desk. You can also sit on it as a chair. This is actually one of the first types of origami I ever make when engaging origami more seriously. So, here it is, the desk chair. Oh, let's see if it'll sit on my head. All right, so with that, the next portion, I champion reading physical books. When an individual reads a physical book, there are a lot of health benefits. One's brain physically changes. Long-term health benefits from reading a physical book. Beyond order. Oof. So, we embrace more rules to engage one's life with high energy, mindful energy, willingness, commitment. The text is really motivational, really guiding. There are spiritual boundaries, there are anecdotal boundaries, there are elements of the text that really encourage individuals to embrace one's life fully, engage with what one is seeking, engage with one's choice life. How? By resolving forward, by comprehending the dimensions of growth are possible for one seeking well, one willing to embrace what may be of different trajectories, volatility with flexibility and mindfulness and understanding. So I really think this text, Dr. Peterson brings another vibe to growth and really navigating one's life well, not just alone, interdependently as well, bringing about how one may have good relational building even amidst one's growth toward accomplishing well, toward fulfilling one's goals well. So I really think the text has a lot of good to offer. There are instances when the text may seem somewhat tangential, though brings about more of a personal touch that I think beneficial for one to ground one's awareness in, for one's life personally, to address what may be apparent in one's life and how might one observe one's life with the framework of which the text is offering. Thanks for joining. I don't know. We can talk about it. Onward and Upward, Kevin Dufresne.